Yeah, for those of you who have never attended who didn't attend the keynote this morning, I'll just reintroduce myself. My name is Bob. I work in Google Singapore. I'm on the developer relations team, and I'm originally from Malaysia, now based in Singapore. Don't be hostile. I look after Malaysia and Thailand market, mainly interacting with developers in Malaysia as well as Thailand. The gist of this talk is to share with you guys a story, right? It's pretty late in the afternoon. I don't want to bore you guys with too much details or hardcore features, tech talk. So before I start that, geek alert, this slide has a little bit of code. So who's not coders in the room? Who are not coders in the room? Okay, minority. Okay, now a few more at least. Who are coders in the room? Alright. No, don't worry. This slide is pretty much catered to coders and non-coders. There's just going to be a couple of slides which has some code on it. So what I want to do today, this afternoon, is to share a story, a developer story. And this story is actually a true story. It's my own personal experience, and it relates to the topic that SC was talking about earlier on, progressive web apps, right? So the story starts a couple of weeks ago when I was in Amsterdam. I was attending the PWA summit, right? So on my way back, when I was waiting for my flight at the airport, I got this message, right? So it says, "Hi Bob, can I get a description of a session for IO Extended Bangkok?" So similar to IO Extended KL, we also have an IO Extended Bangkok a couple of weeks back. And this is basically, somehow I kind of forgotten that I need to give a session in Bangkok. Which is 3 days from the time I received this message. So that was exactly my expressions when I got it. I was like, oh shit, this isn't going down well, right? So, so I need to prepare a session for IELTS Standard 2016 Bangkok. Now, what should I be talking about? And this is the problem that I struggle the most, because in Google we have a lot of technologies, right? And we have progressive web app. We've actually talked about a lot earlier on in this session. We also have Firebase, which some of the sessions covered, primarily on mobile, but there's actually Firebase for web as well. So definitely do urge you guys to check it out. And then we also have material design, which I think Taylor speak to a little bit. Thank you. Yes, no, don't do. It's fine. It's no don't. It's okay. I'll do the old-fashioned stuff. I'll use my fingers. There's also material design for web apps, and material design is also very important. It's basically a design language that Google actually released out to the industry, so that you can have some good practices or guidelines in terms of how you want to develop your web app. And then at the same time, there's also Angular 2. Angular 2 is a JavaScript framework for you to develop apps that works across multiple different devices. Who has used Angular before? Nice. Who has used Angular 2 before? Cool. One guy. Okay, so you guys want to know if I say anything wrong. So Angular 2 is very new. It's very new. It's not even officially released yet. It's still beta version. But do check it out, because it's actually getting a lot of attention from the industry. It is kind of like quoted like the JavaScript that might change the web application paradigm. Web development paradigm, right? So just do check out Angular 2. So Angular 2 was in my thoughts as well. So I was wondering, what should I really talk about? So for inspiration, I kind of pull out my phone to load the agenda. I don't have any talks that kind of overlap with whoever is presenting on that day. And I got this, right? By now you should know what this means. My phone is kind of like connected, but unfortunately I'm getting this. Which SC kind of call out the term Li-Fi early on. So basically I was having a situation of Li-Fi, right? Connected, but somehow not loading, which is kind of irritating. And that's the worst thing you can tell to the users, If your user is connected, it's fine. Your user is disconnected, it's also fine, because nothing will load. But if the user is connected and nothing is loading, we're kind of telling the user that, hey user, it's your fault because your phone somehow screwed you up. It's not my website fault. So that's definitely not a good user experience, and we don't want that, right? So that gave me a light bulb moment, like, ka-ching, I think I know what I want to talk about. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to base my talk on a sample app. I'm going to build a progressive web app application that's able to work offline, that gets its data from Firebase, and also has good UI using the Material Design Framework, right? So I was very pleased that I was able to do that. So on my flight, I had a very good rest, I slept throughout, and I landed in Singapore. Right? So when I landed in Singapore, I was still a little bit jet lagged, and I was wondering, like, how can I actually do this in the most easy way? Right? I want to do this as quick as possible, don't want to get through too much hustle, and develop my app. So I take a look at Angular 2 again, and I realized that it says one framework, mobile and desktop. So there must be an easy way to do this, right? So I did a little bit of digging, and I found this, the Angular Mobile Toolkit. So when I found this, I was extremely happy, and that is basically me jumping up in joy. Say, yes, I can do this. This is something I can use. So I went ahead, installed, and holy crap, I got this. And basically it's not working on my machine. Right? I know some of you are recording, so I just want to say it's no fault of the Angular Mobile Toolkit team. It's just my machine. It should work on everyone else's machine, it's just me. Right? It's not their fault, it's my fault. Yeah, right, it's my fault. It's always the user's fault, so it's my fault. So I said, okay, 2 days more, I need to fly to Bangkok the next day. So that toolkit isn't working out for me, so let's keep calm and carry on and just review the requirements. So like as all developers in the room, or even designers in the room, you start off with a design spec, right? So take a step back, review the design spec, and the design spec for my demo is that I want it to be developed with Angular 2 because I want to spread the word of Angular 2. I want it to be synchronized with Firebase, have material design, and it's offline enabled. So okay, so I can break this down into pieces. So let's keep going. So first of all, they always say data is king when you develop a web application. So I go up to firebase.go.com, create a new project. This is the console, if you guys haven't seen it before. And I basically add a web app to my console. And then I got all these details like the API keys, some database URLs, some storage bucket URLs, things like that. So let's copy all of this and put it into a notepad. And then I start structuring my database. So Firebase database looks like this. Right? It's a NoSQL, JSON formatted database. Right? So very simple. You can see that in my database I have a list of sessions, and then in the list of sessions I have session, and it has description, speaker, time, and title. Very straightforward and very easy to do. So I go ahead and set this up. Then the next thing I need to do is I need to come back to my own laptop and start installing Angular 2. So Angular 2 uses Node and NPM. If you're not familiar with Node and NPM, NPM is basically just a package management system. Right? It allows you to install packages from the web onto your local machine. So all those libraries, JavaScript libraries that you want to use, you can use NPM to manage them. So basically for Angular 2, you start off by installing the Angular-CLI. Right? So just fire the first command, npm-g install Angular-CLI, and then you do ng new io2016 to create a folder and all the necessary files. Right? So when you do that, all the necessary files, HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and all those files will be automatically generated for you. And then the third step, you do ng-serve. And the reason why you do ng-serve is because Angular CLI has a local run web server. Right? So when you do that, you actually spawn a local instance of server, and then it serves your Angular project. And if you do this correctly, which fortunately I did, it works for me, and you'll see this message. So when I see this, I was extremely happy, and I say, okay, this is working. Let's keep going. Right? Let's keep going. So the third step that I did was to install the Angular Fire library. Same thing as npm install Angular Fire 2, Firebase, let's just save. So it grabs the Angular 2 library for Firebase, and then install it onto my local machine. And once I do that, in my JavaScript file, I start setting things up. So for the non-coders in the room, don't worry too much about understanding the entire syntax. Pretty much it's very straightforward if you just read it from a natural language perspective. So I just say import the Angular Fire library into my JavaScript file, and then set up the Firebase using the details that I copied from the console early on. Right? So once this is done, you pretty much have Firebase set up. Then the next thing you need to do is to grab the data from Firebase, right? So the next thing you need to do is, as usual, a couple more code, right? So you basically declare a variable of type Firebase list observable called sessions, and then you say this dot sessions equals to af.database.list, and the name of the database data node, right? Which I name it sessions. And the interesting thing about this is that this is all you need to do to get data from Firebase. Anytime that I upload my data or update my data in Firebase, your app will be automatically updated. You don't have to write code to pull new data from Firebase. Right? So everything is done for you because of this class right here that says Firebase list observable. So it's observing any changes that happens in Firebase and then pull down all the data when things changes, so that all your devices, all your application in your devices actually is in sync with the latest copy. So that's pretty much it. That's setting up Angular Fire. And then to display it, I just do something like this, which is using a templated system. Who's familiar with templating in HTML? Does this syntax look familiar to you? Yeah. Okay, cool. So for those of you who have seen this before, what this does is that it binds the front end to the back end data, to the variable called session, and then it's saying that look through all the sessions and display only the title. And so that is what it does. So if everything goes well, I should see this, which is pretty much what I saw. And I was very happy with this when I saw this. So, but one thing I realized is that I can't just stop here. Who thinks this is a pretty app? My God. Huh?
Looks like a Firebase.
No, this Firebase website doesn't look like this.
Firebase not.
No, it doesn't look like this. So, but anyway, my point is that it's working, it's functional, but it doesn't look good. And if you're working for your FYP, for example, you can hand this in to your professor. Right? You can hand it in if you love your school so much, you're going to stay on for another 2 more years. But if you want to graduate and move on with your life, you can't hand this in. Right? And if you're working in a company, you can hand this in as well, unless you want to move on with your life away from the company and get fired. So these are things that we can definitely do better. So let's try it. We can definitely do better. Right? We are web developers. We have the power to do better, and that's where material design comes in. Right? We got a functionality in place. We got a data sync and everything else working in order. Let's think a little bit about the UI. Right? Remember our mission here, which I didn't state earlier on, and hopefully is obvious by now, is to delight your users. Right? Whoever will use your app, you kind of want to own it to them, to make sure that your users are delighted. And users are definitely not delighted with the previous version of the UI. So let's see how we can improve that. And that's where material design comes into picture. And material design, we have guidelines for mobile and web as well. And the idea is that it gives you a framework that you can use to create beautiful UI for your web app. Right? And the best thing about Angular is because there's actually a material design library for Angular. So once again, when I see this, I was saying, yes, this is something I can use. So let's use this. Right? So once again, download this. And the beauty of Angular 2 is that you can actually download the components that you need. If you need a material button, you download the button, the card, if you need a card. But most important of all, you need to download the core library. Right? Go ahead and do this. And then once you download it, you can start plugging it into your UI. So here, what I say is that I want to use a toolbar within a site nav, and I want to have some cards displaying the sessions. Right? So it's pretty much straightforward. from there. And if everything goes well, basically I'll see this, which is really cool. And now it's something that I think it can be shipped as an MVP. So a couple of steps, just pushing the boundaries, and then when you arrive at this stage, you can start socializing it with your users. And hopefully your users will be so much more happier than looking at this rather than the previous version. But we can actually do better. Let's push the envelope further. Remember, we have a problem early on when I was in the airport and this happens. There's still one critical problem we haven't solved yet. And no matter how beautiful your UI is, your user is not going to be delighted if every time you try to access it, it's offline. So let's try to see how we can offline enable this particular web app. So the idea is to burn this and then replace it with this that works when the connection is offline. So just to emphasize the message, we need to make this work offline. So that's our mission, and that's the last mission of the day. So for that to happen, we need to do two things, right? First of all, we need to structure our code a little bit, our web application a little bit. All those static files, right? Group them together and call them the application shell. And this group of files are files that you will be caching on the browser. Right? The static files, only the static files. And everything else in the middle, which is dynamically retrieved from the server, are the dynamic content. Right? So group your web app this way, and then the next thing you do is use service worker. So SC has talked a lot about service worker, so I won't go into too in-depth about it. But basically use service worker to cache whatever files you define as application shell into your web browser. Right? So the next time if you go offline, the service worker will retrieve it from the cache instead of going from the server. So once again, I'm lazy, so I want to find an easy way to do this. Someone should actually keep a count of how many times cats appears in developer presentations. There's always cats appearing in developer presents, which I don't know why. But anyway, so I found this library. It's by a team in Google. It's called SW-precache. You can use it right now. You download it, and then you install it using npm again. And then you write a couple of code using gulp. There's actually code snippets that you can just copy and paste from the GitHub repo. And what it does is that it actually generates the service worker.js. You don't have to write it yourself. Right? It generates everything for you, and at the end of the day, you get an sw.js, which is a service worker file. And then you then register your service worker with some JavaScript and HTML file. So once you do this, it will definitely be offline enabled, right? And I don't want to bore you guys with this boring video. I want to do something which is definitely not recommended, especially the last session. I'm going to show you guys a live demo. I hope that everything else works. So this is the application that was being developed. As you can see right now, it's rolling along smoothly. It's pretty fast. It's getting the data from Firebase. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to switch off the Wi-Fi. So okay, this is the moment of truth. So before I do that, just wish me luck. Okay, here goes. And it still works. It's pretty cool, huh? Oh yes, please. Thank you. I was so worried just now. If you guys don't clap, I don't know what to say. So thank you so much for being such an awesome audience. So yeah, it's online. It's still working. This is fake. This is just an image there. So don't worry. It's really offline. It's really offline. So it's still working. And the idea is that for a website to be able to work like this offline and it's fast and everything else is actually quite amazing. And I'll show you something else which is really cool. And the reason why it works offline is because all the files, remember earlier on, now this is not the optimized way to do it, right? I'm caching a lot of files. Right? Whatever that is being loaded, even the JSON data that was loaded from Firebase, I'm also caching it. So that when there's no connection, I'm able to just retrieve everything from cache. And all this caching mechanism is when you generate the sw.js file, just like that. I didn't do any programming whatsoever. So trust me, it's really that easy. So there you go. The demo work. I better turn on my Wi-Fi just in case something else breaks. Let me just jump back to the slides. This again. So yeah, so that's it. So let's recap very quickly what we did to get our app, to a place where it's delightful to users and also work offline. Right? You set your data up in Firebase. You install Angular 2, Angular Fire 2, Angular Material, SW-P cache library. You generate the service worker file, you register it, and then you enable it to be offline. But to be honest, there's actually more that we can do. Remember the functionality that SC was showing that you can actually install onto your mobile phone homepage? To do that, it's actually quite easy. You need to just add a web manifest to your HTML file. And there's tools to generate that. So you can very quickly generate a web manifest, which allows the user to actually add your web app, install it as a native app onto your mobile device. And then you can do push notifications as well. So these are two things that we can further improve. So the big question I always get when I talk about Service Worker is that Service Worker don't support on iOS Safari. Who's using an iPhone? My condolences, guys. You most probably have to wait until the end of the year, or maybe even the end of next year, before you can actually have an offline web app on Safari. Don't quote me on timeline, seriously. I'm just talking shit. But Safari is actually don't really support this right now. Actually, it doesn't support this at all right now. But they're actually heavily considering it. But the point I'm trying to make is that the objective here, if you guys remember, is that we want to delight our users, whatever mobile devices that they use. So a lot of things that we have done here, apart from making it offline enabled, material design, Firebase, so they synchronize across multiple different devices, are all applicable. They are all best practices. And when you install or when you actually code and register a service worker, you always do that if statement to check if it's being supported. If it's not supported, that's fine. But the users can still benefit from all the other enhancements that you do. So when you talk about progressive web app, the key word here is progressive, and we always say progressive enhancement. It's not getting to a point where working offline is the main goal, but the users are definitely the main the main focus here. So if you want to know more, there's a YouTube playlist for progressive web app. If you want to take photos, I'll just put this slide on for a couple of seconds. Or you can Google in YouTube, Progressive Web App Dev Summit 2016, and you have tons of videos talking about progressive web app. One thing that's really interesting, you should definitely check it out, the talks that are given by Opera and also Mozilla Firefox. Right? They actually have a very interesting view, perspective on PWA. And they are supporting it right now, actually. So I think that's about it, right? So thank you so much for being an awesome audience. If you have any questions, I'll be around, so grab me whenever you feel about it. You feel it, and then we can talk more. Yeah, so that's about it. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. So I think JD is supposed to close, and the awesome dude that was doing all those time-filling activities in here. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to do. No. But maybe I'll just talk through. How do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about the event so far? Is everything okay? Good? Is the food okay? You can be honest. Yeah, but anyway, this is something that the GDG guys usually do on an annual basis. So definitely look out for them doing it another round next year. There's also an upcoming event, which I know the GDG here is also preparing. It's called DevFest at Q4, right? I think when is DevFest happening? November. So look out for that. It has a lot more materials, and obviously there are new APIs that will be announced and will be shared. And if GAT is not coming, I'm really a few minutes. Okay. I think that's not gonna work here. So you guys want them to stay here or? Okay. Okay. So yeah, stay here. Just be quiet for the next few minutes, and then I'll have an easier job. Okay. So, quick show of hands. Who is keen to implement any of the things PWA? Who is keen to implement PWA? Nice. I need to take a photo and report this. What about Firebase? Right. Very cool. Machine learning. Wow. Christine is going to be very happy. I want to give a hand of applause to Christine. That's a very, very difficult topic to actually present. And then who is interested to do VR? VR, AR? I have one guy who raises his hand for every single thing. He's sitting right there. And oh, thank God you're here. Dude.